Today we're going to explore a little bit of religion in Korea.
That's the inside of a temple.
한국 전체 신자의 10% 카톨릭 신자예요.
Apparently, the Buddhist journey is similar to going up a mountain. And another thing was that there was an image on the wall that looked like a person wearing hanbok, which is the Korean traditional clothes.
Many of these temples, they have drawings of flowers, clouds, and dragons.
So this religion has shamans, and they act as a bridge between people, gods, and spirits.
And then we just found like a really OG temple. Good morning, guys. How are ya? Today we're going to explore a little bit of religion in Korea. So I've been here in this country for 2 months now, and this is a question that I've been always asking myself, like, what is religion in Korea like? Like, what do they believe? Since Korea has always been the other side of the world for me, I've never understood religion in this country. So I'm walking to a church now, and let's explore a little bit of the religious background of this country. So Korea has a pretty big Christian population, and that's one thing that was really surprising for me, because I mean, it's a country in East Asia, and then you would probably expect like to find a Korean religion here or some type of Asian religion, but definitely the number one religion here is Christianity. And the history of how Christianity came here is pretty interesting. So it first arrived in the 1700s with Korean scholars who went to China and learned about Catholicism in China. And then they brought this knowledge over here to Korea, and they baptized some people, and they tried to spread Catholicism, but it didn't work out very well because the government at the time, which was a dynasty called Joseon Dynasty, they pretty much just banned Christianity, and they persecuted Christians, and Christians was really not perceived in a positive way because the dynasty understood that Christianity was a threat to their government. So this was pretty much the first contact Korea had with Christianity. And then there was like a second wave of Christianity in Korea, which was in the 1800s, when many missionaries, mostly from the United States and Canada, traveled to Korea, and they brought missions. They helped build schools, they helped build hospitals, and they just really worked out on spreading Christianity across Korea, which made it boom and grow a lot in the 1800s. And then you could say that another chapter of Christianity in Korea was during the Japanese colonization. The Japanese really didn't perceive Christianity well. The colonization period lasted during 1915 and 1945, and during this time Christianity wasn't completely banned, but it was linked with the fight against the Japanese colonial rule and the fight for freedom, which definitely wasn't well perceived by the Japanese. So the Japanese didn't ban Christianity completely, but they tried to control and they tried to restrict Christianity as much as they could. After that, in 1945, the Japanese empire just crumbled as Japan lost World War II, and the Korean War broke out in 1950, finishing in 1953. And after that, I'd say that pretty much, apparently, Christianity just grew and boomed a lot in South Korea. So between 1953 and today's world, it just kept growing, and it became what it is today. Today, Christianity is definitely the main religion in Korea. Apart from people who don't have religion, I'd say that like this would be the biggest religion in Korea. Apparently more than 50% of the population doesn't identify as having any religion. But apart from that, Christianity is believed by 28% of the population. And I think you could say that it is pretty much the biggest religion in Korea today.
한국 전체 신자의 10% 카톨릭 신자예요. 리마.
알겠습니다. 알겠습니다. 와우. 아마존.
아마존. 오케이.
I just left the church now, and it was a really nice experience. People were very friendly. They were all talking to me all the time, saying hello, how are you? And we used Google Translator to communicate, which was great, very helpful. And I met the priest. It was very nice. One thing that stood out for me is that they have books that are like Bibles but for music, and they have the melodies written on the books, and they have images as well. It was very interesting. And another thing was that there was an image on the wall that looked like a person wearing hanbok, which is the Korean traditional clothes, and I don't know, it was somehow related to the church. And that was very interesting to see, like a mixture of Korean culture with Christian culture. Very nice experience. Now we're hiking up a mountain to visit a temple, and apparently many of these temples here in Korea, many of these Buddhist temples here were built in hills and mountains, and it's a little bit of a connection with what they believe, and what they believe is the Buddhist journey. So apparently the Buddhist journey is similar to going up a mountain. That's the inside of a temple. I think these messages here are prayers. For some reason, this temple that we came today has some construction going on. But look at the view. Imagine these monks like thousands of years ago, like 1,000 years ago, on a mountain like this, with a view like this, and just like nothing around. It's crazy. All these temples have figures on the side that are very interesting. They're very colorful, and I think Buddhist temples in general, they really pay attention to small details, which is very interesting. So Buddhism is a religion that is originally from Nepal / northern India. And then you might ask, like, how did it come here to Korea? It came to Korea like thousands of years ago through monks, scholars, and diplomats. They were traveling from China to Korea, and they brought Buddhism over to Korea. It took a while for Buddhism to be completely associated with Korean culture because of the fact that Korea at the time was like multiple kingdoms. There were not like just one unified Korea. There was like multiple government, and yeah, it was gradual, but it happened. And in today's world, as of 2025, 16% of the population of Korea identify as Buddhist. Many of these temples, they have drawings of flowers, clouds, and dragons, and they usually relate to fortune and a good life and prosperity. Imagine this, something that started thousands of years ago, traveled all the way across Asia, and ended up here in Korea. Wow. A fun fact that creates a lot of confusion is in relation to the Buddhist swastikas. So Buddhism, they have a symbol that resembles the footprints of Buddha, and they have a really good meaning of prosperity and respect and everything. But they are very similar to the swastika that was used in Europe during World War II in Nazi Germany, which has a completely different meaning, but they're very similar. I wonder how did it end up as a symbol of a dictatorship
in Europe, you know? Many of these temples have bells in the entrance. These bells are really amazing. You pull this piece of wood and then you release it and then it hits the bell and it makes a really strong noise. Many of these temples in Korea were also built in mountains so it can resemble harmony with nature. Today, unfortunately, there's some construction going on, but that's it. We cannot deny progress. I wonder how would they build these temples back in the day? Because today they're using a tractor, they're using pretty good machinery, but imagine thousands of years ago. Every time you come to these temples here, you're gonna see a lot of Chinese characters. And the main reason is because the original Korean writing is with Chinese characters. They later on invented their own alphabet, so Korean has an alphabet, but the traditional method of writing is using Chinese characters. That's why it's everywhere. Now we're gonna finish up our hike up this mountain. What a pleasant surprise. We continued going up the mountain. We're pretty high now. And then we just found like a really OG temple.
이는 지나치게 살핌으로써 손상을 당하게 됨을 경계한 말이다. 이를 염두에 둔다면 생각은 밝아지고
I always try to imagine this back in the origin, you know, back when they started building these temples here in these mountains. Imagine the first people hiking up here and bringing wood, bringing rocks to make these temples. Buddhist temples are beautiful, incredibly beautiful. Wow,
How is it?
so nice. And the most impressive part is that there are rice fields and skyscrapers everywhere. That's so crazy. That's such a crazy mixture. Literally, rice fields and skyscrapers next to each other. Rice field here, skyscrapers here. Rice field.
The next religion we're going to talk about is Korean shamanism. So, shamanism is a traditional Korean religion, and they believe in spirits and gods, and that spirits and gods influence human life. So, this religion has shamans, and they act as a bridge between people, gods, and spirits. They believe that the problems in your life are a direct result of bad relations between humans and spirits. And they have rituals. And these rituals act as a way to balance the relationship between spirits, gods, and humans. How common is shamanism today? How does it influence Korea? So shamanism centers are very easy to find. I'd say that pretty much every city has at least a center, and it's very widespread. But here's what is interesting. Very few Koreans identify as followers of shamanism, but there are thousands of shamans in Korea. And apparently it's very common in Korea, even for Christians and Buddhists, to visit a shaman so they can understand their future better.
엄마보다 더 이쁘네. 일국으로 가라. 엄마 거네, 엄마 거네.
감사합니다.
그래요, 예.
선생님.
또 그 명절 지내고 가시겠구나.
네, 맞.
The fact that it's in front of the water, it's so iconic.